Hello, and welcome to the Paranormal Operator Podcast, where we talk about all manner of things that go bump in the night. Here, we discuss sightings, investigations, news, and popular media surrounding the paranormal, supernatural, and occult phenomena. So settle in as we search for the truth. I'm your host, Adam, Operator 23. In today's episode, a 35-year-old anomalous signal from space, alien attacks in Peru, the Grush medical leak, space weather, a Bigfoot sighting from Yellowstone National Park. We say goodbye to the Bigfoot researcher Scott Carpenter, but apparently we say hello to Olivia Newton-John, who seems to be visiting her family from beyond the grave, and upcoming events. Before we begin, though, a quick announcement. The Paranormal Operator website is up and running, along with a way to submit reports of supernatural, paranormal, cryptozoological, and ufological activity, and anything else you want to put in there, out-of-body experiences, whatever. Paranormal, supernatural, occult, you got it. Just put it on there. And, as promised, it's up and running before our well-spent tax dollars could manage it over at Arrow. The website is paranormaloperator23.com. Ufology News. Our first article comes from USA Today, entitled, Researchers Discover Mysterious Interstellar Radio Signal Reaching Earth. Extraordinary. Originally published July 25th of this year, the article announces the perplexing case of an unknown radio signal coming from around 15,000 light-years away. This, in and of itself, is nothing special, as cosmic bodies such as pulsars and magnetars, among others, pulse signals through space all the time. However, this signal has been on our radar for 35 years, and it has not decreased or slowed down. It may not be a pulsar, as their pulses tend to slow down into nothing. So they just kind of cycle down into, as they say in Independence Day, to extinction. They cycle down to extinction. And, well, they also tend to pulse a lot faster. It could be an ultra-long period magnetar. That could be the source of the signal. However, the intervals don't really match with what a magnetar is supposed to do, along with the fact that it's a lot quicker, and that this seems to be too slow for it to be a magnetar with our current way of thinking of how magnetars work. Now, the research is being done by astronomers from the International Center for Radio Astronomy Research, and their research was published in the journal Nature, July 19th, 2023, and it is entitled A Long Period Transient Active for 3 Decades. The next story comes from me, the Paranormal Operator, entitled, Are ETs Mutilating Locals in the Peruvian Amazon? Now, this story, if true, is quite extraordinary. According to locals, since mid-July, the village of San Antonio, which is near the Peru-Colombia border, in a area called Laredo, it has been being terrorized by these so-called face peelers, which is basically a cryptid of theirs down there. And many suspect that these things might be of extraterrestrial origin. Timothy Alberino, who can be found on YouTube and Twitter by that name, who he also has published, I know, at least one book, he is familiar with the area. He actually spent quite a bit of time down there in the Amazon, as well as being familiar with the superstitions. He commented that he feels that they are a real thing, these face peelers, and that people are genuinely getting their faces peeled off by something. In one of his interviews, they alluded to a TikTok video, which you can find on Twitter pretty easily, what showed a deceased man on a riverbank, and there were two people. They looked like cops, or at least I'm pretty sure their vests said policia on them. And they basically picked this guy up and tried carrying him away, and the guy's face and part of his scalp looked like it had been surgically removed. It had been cut cleanly, starting at the neck and working its way up the face, both ears. There was still some scalp left. It's very graphic, so you're probably not going to find it on YouTube. But there was some talk that it might be fake. We're not really sure. What we do know is that it's not necessarily related to what's going on in San Antonio, Peru, right now, but that it might be related. So the provenance of this video is still, it's a little bit in question. Now, that being said, there is something, apparently, about 7 feet tall, covered in silver, and impervious to point-blank gunshot blasts, hovering through the jungle out there, terrorizing these people. So, what do these people do? Well, they demanded that the National Police and the Navy come and investigate. And you might be like, why would they want the Navy? They're in the middle of the jungle. Well, they're on a river, so it'd be easier for the Navy to get there than it would be for the Army, I guess. At any rate, the armed forces did show up, and the police did show up. They conducted some level of investigation. And, well, their conclusion, oddly enough, was that this activity was caused by illegal miners, people out there who are illegally mining in the Amazon. And the fact that they can hover and fly off the ground, well, they said jetpacks were the answer to that. So, they seem to think that illegal miners whose complexity of technology extends to walkie-talkies and cell phones are flying around the Amazon jungle with jetpacks and body armor, I guess. Not sure if that really flies with me. I'm not buying it. But at any rate, very interesting. And hopefully there will be more information forthcoming. On a side note, though, I would like to say Alberino feels there may be some parallel between this event in Peru and what happened in Las Vegas back in April. If the Vegas incident was legit, that's the caveat. So you may recall, or you may not even remember the thing that happened in Las Vegas. So apparently these guys, teenagers really, were out front working on a truck, and then something landed in their backyard. They went back there and apparently walked upon two non-human entities that they said were 8 to 10 feet tall. And there is a video that you can find. You have to search back a little ways. It's not the clearly CGI one with the alien crouched over near a fence, because that was the only one I could find for a little while. But it's the one where they're standing in front of a gate or a fence, and the gate is open. It's a tall wooden privacy fence. And they're standing there, and you can see into the backyard, and there's some JCBs, front-end loaders. They call it a forklift. I don't think it was a forklift, but I don't think English is their first language, so that might be what it was. And there's this black shadowy shape that looks like an alien, or at least the head of one, with a little bit of eye shine. And, Alberino thinks that particular extraterrestrial might be the same species as the ones being seen in Peru, because they've had video of it. Now, the video is jumping all over the place. It is blurry. You can find some stills, as well as stabilized versions. Actually, if you go to our website, on my blog, the very first blog post is this story. I have it links, or actually it's embedded straight into the post, so you can watch it there from off of Twitter, so you don't have to go searching for it. But he thinks that there might be a connection here. And he actually draws a connection to another earlier incident from a long time ago with a defense contractor. But I'll let him speak for himself, going any further than Las Vegas. So if you want to check him out, he's got some pretty interesting videos on YouTube. That's Timothy Alberino, Alberino. For some time now, David Grush has been in the news and on Capitol Hill professing that the U.S. has been involved in the retrieval of non-human crafts, as well as a grand conspiracy to circumvent the government and the American people in back engineering non-human, presumably extraterrestrial technology. Why he won't say extraterrestrial, and he consistently is like, I prefer to say non-human, I don't understand. Okay, so what is it? An animal? If it's not human, it's got to be extraterrestrial. Anyway, he's been saying this. He's been out in the public, very prominently, and while there is no direct correlation between what he's saying and the research and claims of Dr. Stephen Greer, I would tend to say there's probably a parallel here, something similar. Although I would also tend to think that there's probably a parallel with what Dr. Greer says, as well as with the previous story in the Amazon, simply because part of his claims is that we, with our black projects that we have back engineered, are out there in the jungles terrifying locals. So there might be a parallel with that. Anyway, getting back to the story. There's a media company called The Intercept, and it published some materials alluding to Grush's past with PTSD. Now, he was a member of the Air Force before he got a cushy office job with the UAP task force. And he did deploy to the Middle East on more than one occasion, and he came back with PTSD. And supposedly, the thought was this is in a presumed bid to decrease his credibility. There have been much controversy as to how this particular journalist got the information, and there have been some contradictory reports as to the character of it. According to The Intercept, though, because good on them, they showed the receipts. They did obtain the information legally. They actually obtained it through a FOIA. And News Nation, who was the outlet who had the exclusive interview with Grush, they broke the story, and they were also the first ones to come and say, this is, the intelligence community leaked this. They did have to walk that stance back. So they're no longer saying that. However, if we look a little bit closer at what has transpired, the Debrief, which is a news organization who I would highly recommend you go out and subscribe to their newsletter. It is free, and it is very well worth a read. They pointed out that the journalist from The Intercept, it does seem, was intentionally pointed in that direction to ultimately inquire about Grush's police record, thus landing him on the PTSD. Because apparently he was going through some troubles, he had PTSD, he was very depressed, and his wife was worried because there were firearms in the house. Obviously, he's military, he's going to own at least one gun. Now, the whole point of the PTSD, Grush has spoken publicly about it. He said that he was very happy that he was able to have the strength to get the help needed. So, yeah. He's not trying to hide it. Now, in my opinion, what the guy did, it's good investigative journalism. But, and this is a big stinky one, what he did was, it was rather uncouth and tactless. I mean, and he doesn't even agree with the fact, he doesn't believe in UFOs. He said he doesn't believe in UFOs. I'm like, okay, great. But do you really have to, try to drag the guy through the mud because you don't like him? So, I don't think the intelligence community is out of the woods. I don't think that their hands are clean. I think that they are very culpable for this. So, yeah. Now, while we're on the topic of mental issues, there are things that I feel you could bring to light and say, okay, well, did you know he has dementia? Or he's got Alzheimer's or something like that, I'm not saying that he does, but, if that were to come to light, then maybe. But PTSD is not really one of those things that I would tend to think of when I, would think of someone who's losing their grip on reality. So I think that it actually had an opposite effect. I think that this has actually garnered a lot of support and sympathy for Grush, just because, not even outside of the UFO community, just in the broader American patriotic public who want to support a military veteran who has suffered from PTSD. So, and mental health and suicide, especially among our military, is no joking matter. If you know someone who is in crisis and they need help, or if it's you, know that you are not alone. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and there is no reason that you need to seek a permanent solution to a temporary problem. There are people out there who have your six. They want to hear from you. And I would encourage you, or if you know someone, to please spread the information on the screen. There are many resources out there for people who are suffering from this thing, this terror, and it can be horrific. One company that I will fully endorse is the Till Valhalla Project. And if you want to support their mission, go to their store. I'm going to have their website up on the screen. Buy stuff from them. Support them, because they're out there supporting these other organizations for veterans, and they make plaques for people who have lost their fight to PTSD, because the owner went through it. He almost killed himself over PTSD. So it's not a fun time for people. It's not a fun place for people to be in. So If you're one of those people, get help. If you know one of those people, be their help. Space weather news. The following is from spaceweather.com. Tonight, August 12th, is the best time to see the Perseid meteor shower, as the sky's going to be pretty dark with a near new moon. Granted, so long as you're not in the middle of a very well-lit area. There should be dozens per hour of meteors in the area of the Perseus constellation, so it should be a pretty spectacular show. And as far as impactors this week, we only have a few. We have two, to be exact, making an approach, both of them on August 14th. There is 2023 OE5, 19 meters in size, and passing at 4 lunar distance. And there is 2023 PQ, 37 meters in size, passing at just 2 lunar distance. Cryptozoology news. This week's sighting is actually fairly recent, and it comes from the Bigfoot Society podcast. They posted a YouTube video August 7th of a purported Bigfoot sighting which took place August 3rd in Yellowstone National Park. If you're watching the video and you look to the right, you'll start to see a small, tiny black object walking into the center of the shot. And then as it moves past, there's a second one. I don't know how far behind, but there's 2 of these things. And they're just kind of walking along at the base of a hill. And I don't know how far away these things are, but they look like they're a pretty good distance. So they're probably pretty big, if they're as far away as I think they are. And the guy who is shooting the video, he actually originally uploaded it to TikTok. It wasn't the Bigfoot Society. It was actually a third party that the Bigfoot Society was sharing it. And, when he sees the things, he calls out bear. And later, during a rewatch, he concludes that no, these things are actually bipedal. Having watched the video, it's really hard to tell, just because of how far away these objects are, these figures are. But it does kind of look bipedal to me. So it really would have been helpful if we could have had some distance, or maybe they could have measured something in the background for scale. But interesting to say the least. Next, we mourn the loss of a prominent Bigfoot researcher with the passing of Scott Carpenter. According to the U.S. Sun, Scott, who had appeared on Finding Bigfoot and Survivorman, and who had a large role in the Sasquatch genome study, died Friday, August 4th. His main theory on Bigfoot revolved around them being part of the Nephilim, which are the sons of God that came down and mated with the daughters of Eve. So, a half-breed sort of thing. He authored several books, such as The Bigfoot Field Journal, Volumes 1 and 2, The Dogman, Monsters Are Real, and The Nephilim Among Us. He passed away peacefully, surrounded by friends and family, from a sudden brain aneurysm. He was 59 years old, and his loss will definitely be felt across the Bigfoot and cryptozoology community. Post-biology news. This article from CNN Entertainment, entitled Olivia Newton-John's husband and daughter say she's visiting them as a blue orb since dying, dated August 9th. This story doesn't really have much meat. Like, it's really only a couple of lines, but it's interesting to me. So, here we go. According to the daughter, Chloe Latanzi, her mom, who was a fan and believer of the paranormal, had promised to appear to her as a blue orb after she died. In a fortuitous event, Chloe accidentally took a picture of her dog, wherein there was a turquoise-colored orb near the animal. The husband, John Easterling, recounted that he had also had a picture with a blue orb that was actually right between his eyes during a private ceremony in Peru, which was commemorating their 15th wedding anniversary. So, interesting that both the mom and the husband had pictures with a blue orb after the mother said that she would come back as a blue orb. So, I found that rather interesting. Science news. There is no science news because, I was hoping to discuss the NASA Independent Study Team's paper, which was supposed to come out 2 weeks ago, and it hasn't. And as far as I can find, there's no date that they think it'll be released. So it's been delayed, obviously, and we're just going to gloss over it. So, events. The 2023 Michigan Paranormal Convention will bring the biggest names in the paranormal industries to Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, for the 13th time, August 24th through the 26th, in Sault Ste. Marie. And the event is going to be happening at the Sault Ste. Marie's Cuadin Casino's Dreammakers Theater. Experts and television stars will be on hand to cover such topics as paranormal investigation, psychic powers, demonology, and ufology. They actually have 8 different workshops. So this is a convention, it's not a conference. So I'm not sure if they're going to have speakers, but from the website it looks like it's going to be workshops. So you can go take a class from these. I think there's eight different people. Who are they? Why are they here? What do they want? They have been with us for all of recorded history, yet we do not know them. They have interfered in ancient battles and surveilled our modern warships. Their technology can shut down our nukes and outrun our fastest jets. They have reportedly killed and have healed. They kidnap us only to release us. Are they E.T., time travelers, interdimensionals, or something else? Most importantly, what do they want? Come find out. Friend or Foe 2.0, the annual MUFON Symposium, which will be held this year in Cincinnati, Ohio, August 24th through the 27th. Come join us this fall in beautiful, historic Savannah, Georgia, for a fun-filled paranormal weekend with special guests, lecturers, Q&As, crystals, vendors, haunted objects and oddities, chip, coffee, psychic, medium, gallery reading, ghost tour, investigations, and more at the Haunted Savannah Paracon, September 15th through the 16th. The main event is going to be on the 16th, and they have a pre-event mixer type deal going on the 15th. Looks like a very interesting event. I might be able to make it to that. Looks very interesting. That's actually some of my old stomping grounds. I used to be a park ranger at Wormslow, and used to be a ghost tour guide on one of the ghost tours they're going to take. So that'd be kind of interesting. Celebrate the history and mystery of the Mothman at the world's only Mothman Festival held annually in downtown Point Pleasant, West Virginia, the hometown of Mothman himself, on September 16th through the 17th. A family-friendly event with plenty of Mothman-themed things to see and do, including shopping and eating from the many festival vendors, TNT bus tours, the Mothman Hayride, which will be on Saturday. You can listen to guest speakers who play a part in cryptozoology. Get your photo with the famous Mothman statue. Visit the world's only Mothman Museum. Visit the local shops and sites of Point Pleasant and more. Festival admission is free, but some attractions throughout the festival do have a fee for entry. And lastly, on September 30th, it will be National Ghost Hunting Day. So why don't you get with a significant other, maybe get a cheap K2 or EMF meter and go take a ghost tour. I'm sure they won't mind you bringing your own equipment. Oh, speaking of which, I actually did a ghost tour in Gatlinburg, Tennessee a couple weeks ago when I went to the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference. It was a pretty good event. The tour was a walking tour. We didn't go terribly far. And it wasn't terribly hot. As far as activity goes, though, I don't know. The places we went, if the history is what the person said it was, it's interesting. And, maybe some of those places are haunted. Maybe they're not. We were only on the outside of the building, so we really couldn't get into them. But, it's a pretty good tour. And all their profits they donate to one of the local charities. So I'd say it was worth it. I think it was like less than $20 a person. So I'd say it was worth it. Well, folks, that's all we have for this week. If you like what you heard, please comment, like, share, subscribe. Make sure you turn on the notifications. All that stuff helps out with the algorithm. If you did not like what you heard, well, I do thank you for listening this long. You can find us on Twitter at ParanormalOps23. And you can find us on Instagram and Rubble at ParanormalOperator23. Our website, which contains our reporting system and blog, is paranormaloperator23.com. Our email is paranormaloperator23@gmail.com. So, folks, stay safe, and we will see you next time. But until then, keep searching in the darkness.